Cam Crabtree, congratulations. Into the European Tour once again. Tour card under your belt. Really good start to the year so far. You must be really enjoying having that tour card and reaping the rewards at the moment.
Yeah, it's been a good start. I'm happy with how I'm doing. I've managed to pick up money in every event so far, so that's always good because that's what's most important. You get yourself off to a good start, get yourself on the rankings. So yeah, that's kind of it really. Just not playing too bad. Try and
Yeah,
keep it going for the rest of the month, really.
yeah. We'll run through Q School in a minute, but you talk about obviously getting the money on the board for the first two Pro Tour events. Was that something that was in the back of your mind a little bit? You wanted to just sort of get over that first hurdle, so you haven't got that in the back of your mind.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, we're there to win, so that's the goal, and that brings money. So the main thing is you get up the rankings. You don't want to. My goal is next year. I don't want to be thinking, "Oh, I have to get this or do this or win this or anything like that." I want to be in a position where next year I don't go in with any sort of unnecessary pressure.
Yeah. How different is the approach now you've got that card to what it was when you were filling in the events from the challenge tour?
Well, I think I'm quite lucky to have had that experience where I've already played in them,
Mm.
so I don't really. It's not a daunting experience. It's something I'm used to.
Yeah.
So now I guess it's slightly different because I don't have. If you're playing from the challenge tour, most of the people that have played the first couple have probably won one of the first ones, so they're feeling confident anyway. They've got some good wins under their belt, and they're feeling positive already. Whereas if you come in a bit cold, then it can be difficult. But I've managed to start okay, so I feel like now I just want to keep the ball rolling, and yeah, I'm not really trying to think about am I in this, am I in that. I'm just worrying on getting each event, each game, trying to do well in each of those.
Yeah. How is having a tour card and having that sort of, I guess you sort of call it professional status, how is that going to change things for you in terms of routine? You've got those Pro Tours Monday, Tuesday, you've got things like European Tour qualifiers, but you may not be able to attend as many tournaments as you did without having that tour card.
Yeah, it's weird. So it's definitely less darts, but for the first month or two, and I think for the last couple of months, it's way busier. It's probably just going to be summertime. But that
Mm.
means that it's more important that I do well in the European Tour qualifiers. Because the way I see it is last year I had, for example, Pro Tour, Challenge Tour, Development Tour. When I was being invited to the Pro Tour, I had Modus, whatever. This year I've got the Pro Tour and Development Tour. So if I can try and replace the Challenge Tour with some Euro Tours,
Mhm.
then it's similar level of darts and well, it's more important because it's helping me move up my rankings and try and qualify for some big TV tournaments.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're obviously on one of those European tours now, qualified for the first one of the year over in Belgium. I mean, it's really impressive performances in that qualifier as well. That opener against Nathan Rafferty looked like a hell of a game. What do you remember from that game in particular?
Yes, it was quite. I think it was 6-2 or 6-3, but it was quite close. Um, I never really felt like I was getting away from him because he was playing so well as I was. So even when I was playing great darts and I'm, hitting 140s, he was doing the same. So it was sort of just leg on leg trying to get the job done. And I was fortunate to. It was a really good game to be a part of.
When you've been playing like that, and we've seen some really solid performances from you already this year, does that give you a huge amount of confidence in those sort of crunch encounters? That last game, obviously against Andrew Gilding, you played really well yourself. Andrew didn't have his best game, but the performances you've got behind you, do they give you an extra bit of sort of mental resilience in those games?
Yeah, I think so. So when it comes to Andrew, I thought when I looked at my draw, I saw that if I were to win my board, I would have to play him. I I was kind of shocked that he was even in the qualifier, to be honest. And I thought, okay, well, that's brilliant. And then I didn't know whether I was playing. I think I saw him play Max Hop, and I didn't know who I had. And then I saw him going over to the board, and I thought, okay, great. I'm gonna have to be switched on here. And I think after winning the first leg, I think it was a break, and then I just thought, okay, now just hold your throw. And whenever I broke, I just thought, okay, make sure you hold your throw, and then even, if I lose the next leg, as long as I keep holding, I'll be fine.
Hmm.
And it was just, I played some reasonably good darts, and Andrew didn't quite play anywhere near he can, so it kind of fell into my hands a bit, and I just had to make sure that I didn't stop and think about it. I just did my job.
Yeah. How important are those Euro Tour qualifiers now? Maybe even more so than they ever have been before. Obviously, 10 players get through them now from what 90 odds in the tournament, and getting through to those Euro Tours is going to be the only real way that you can start to bridge the gap to the sort of top 32, the top 40 in the world, I guess.
Yeah, definitely, they're very, very, very important. And the fact that there's so few people qualifying for them, when you can qualify for them, that's putting you in front of, as we've just said, probably 80 or 90 other people by being in it. And especially if you can go and win a game, win two, win the whole thing, it's going to make a big difference come the end. So yeah, it's very important. I know there's been a bit of uproar about the changes to the qualifiers, and how many people are qualifying and who you play when you qualify. That's not something that I have really taken too much notice of, simply because where I didn't have my tour card before, I am not too clued up on what the rules were,
Okay.
and so I don't really know what the changes are. I think you could have I could have drawn another qualifier before, but
Hmm.
now I can't, something like that. But let's say if you wanna be in the top 32, the top 16, the top eight, you have to beat everyone. So I know that at the moment I'm new to this and I'm 90 odd, but if I want to get to the top, which I do, I can't be worrying about, I have to play this person. I just need to go there and do it. And you know, the better players you play, the better you're going to play. And ultimately, if you can take the money away from them, that's how you're going to bridge the gap.
Yeah. I think that's a really, really good attitude. So we haven't really touched on Q School yet. I read a piece, I think it was in your local newspaper, saying that over Christmas you weren't too well heading into that tournament. Is that sort of how it felt, and were you able to get over that?
Yeah, so I was trying to play as soon as sort of the year was done for Challenge Tour and stuff. I thought, right, I'm going to play every competition I can so that I'm as match ready as I can be for Q School. And then I played a couple and they were going okay. I won a couple and did okay in some others. And then about 10 days before, it was just when the Worlds was starting, I got ill, and it was like COVID really. And I'd had COVID before, but it wasn't that bad. And I had it this time, and I didn't eat for like 8 days. I couldn't taste anything. I was up all night coughing, like hot, cold. Um, yeah, it was pretty rubbish. I didn't throw for like 10 or 11 days, I think it was, um, which I know a lot of players don't really practice that much, so it probably wouldn't be a big deal for them. But I'm a big practicer, so come the 11 dates that I'd not played and then I played, it was like I'd borrowed someone else's arm. Um, so it took a lot of hours in a short time. I was doing 5 or 6 hours a day in the lead up to like the last 10 days before Q school to try and get myself as ready as I could. And I mean, it worked out in the end, but it was tough.
Yeah. Was there any moments, like, sort of when you were laying in bed and you hadn't thrown for 3 or 4 days, where you thought you might not even make Q school this year?
Well, I say I always thought, I thought from when I got ill, it was like just over, it was about 3 weeks. And I thought, right, well, I should be better by then. If I'm not gonna be best impressed. But I did think like I might go there having only played for like 2 or 3 days and
Mm.
not be in a very good position. Um, I think I actually ended up being fortunate that I didn't qualify for the second stage, because playing the first stage, I think I sort of played myself into the week. Had some quite tough draws, but I was beating the tough draws, so it was giving me confidence. When I went into the second stage, I basically played at a second stage standard for most of the first stage, so it was sort of a continuous process for me.
We always talk about players, how tough Q School is. You obviously played on the dev tours and the challenge tours where there's hundreds of people in that room. On challenge tour, there's 2 tournaments of the day that go on till 11 o'clock at night. Can you compare sort of the process and I guess the feeling of an event like that to Q School? Is there any sort of similarities you can draw?
Um, yeah, like the scheduling and the way you prepare, because the first stage is the same as a challenge or development tour. You start at like 10, so you have to make sure that you're in there early, practicing, going through your little routines, whatever it is that works for you individually. And then the second stage is sort of like a pro tour. So
Yeah.
again, the same. I would get in there because I'm fortunate to have played the pro tours. I would just prepare the same way I would for a pro tour. So, I get there reasonably early, about nine, half nine, and then I'd practice for a bit, sit down, practice for a bit, just sort of concentrated practice for maybe half an hour at a time,
Mm.
um, with my headphones in, maybe going through a few little routines, whatever I feel I need to work on for that day. Um, but yeah, it is a very, very tough process, and I've been unfortunate, well, 2 times before. So yeah.
Yeah, there's so many players say the same thing. We're seeing an awful lot of players come through things like JDC academies and obviously going on to things like the development tour and progress really from a really young age, even like 10, 11 year olds that are throwing 80 plus averages. Obviously, you've had a little bit of a different story, a different upbringing in darts, I guess. You came to it relatively late compared to some of them. Do you see there as being like different routes? You can still get to the professional game, even if you don't go through those more traditional routes, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, I've come along. I say I come along a lot later. I think I'm actually like the third youngest person on the tour now, but
Yeah.
I have come a lot later than most. You look at, say, Luke Littler. He's 18 now,
Yeah.
just.
Yeah.
He's been playing since he was 2, so he's been playing for about 16 years.
Yeah.
I'm 3 years older than him, but I've been playing for like a third of the time. So it's weird how it goes, but it doesn't really. I think there's a lot of avenues to get there, and everyone's sort of on their own path. So
Mm.
you see some people, it will take them maybe 20 years to win their first major from the first time they sort of begin to get their name out there, and some people will do it in 4 or 5 years. So it's yeah, there's a lot of different routes now. It's actually scary how good the youth players coming through are, but that's why I need to get myself moving quickly so I don't have to. I'm already up there when they start to come in.
Do you actually watch much darts, or do you play?
Yeah, no, I watch quite a bit. I watched like the Premier League was on last night. Whenever I wasn't at Pro Tours last year, I always watched them. The first Challenge Tour weekend, I followed it on Darts Connect.
Mhm.
So even like the JDC, they had their advanced tour the other day,
Yeah.
and I know a couple of the players like just from seeing their names and that, and Jack Johnson who won the Super 16. He practices. He comes and plays the vault in the club just by my dad's house. So I had a look and saw how he was getting on, and I watched his Super 16. So that was nice to see him doing well. He's a really nice kid. So yeah, I do follow the darts even when I'm not playing. It's just for me, it was a hobby, and I'm lucky that it's turned into a job. So
Yeah.
that doesn't really go away.
Yeah. So final thing before I let you go. Last night, obviously at the Premier League, there was a lot of whistling and a lot of sort of furore around the crowds. I know you've played in front of crowds before, of course. Things like the Modus Super Series. You're going to have the chance on the European Tour in a few weeks' time. What do you make of all of that, and how off-putting do you think it is when you get those people in the crowd that are whistling?
I've never experienced anyone whistling myself, but I have had like at Modus it's so quiet because the crowd, although there's a crowd, it's not a huge crowd. They're sort of isolated noises, and I presume the whistling would be the same because it's such a high pitch or different pitch to a voice. It stands out a lot. I personally don't get it. I don't understand why you would go and watch, the best players in the world play. You spent your money to go there, have a great evening, and then you try and deter them from playing the darts that you want to see. But it doesn't make sense to me. And I felt bad last night for, I know it's happening, and Gezi whistled back at them, but in the final, Luke and Luke, there's just no, literally no need for it. I can't understand it.
No, I think you probably hold the same opinion as pretty much everybody. It's just mental to see. I mean, they're going to darts and they're bringing down the standard. But yeah, really appreciate your time today, Cam, and yeah, best of luck for all the events coming up.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.